hearings?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
we won't have to deliberate or anything like that.
No, we don't have to look at it.
Okay, 2 different documents for 15 Friday, and if you can each take one and pass it along.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Tim, we haven't seen you for a while.
Is it two different documents?
One's one page.
Oh, okay, so that, all right, one page.
Ready, Chris? Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for August 7th, 2019. This meeting is being audio and video recorded per the open meeting laws of the state of Massachusetts. Tonight, we have a couple of special permits, 10 Old Populatic Road, 15 Bridie Lane, 35 Leland Street, which we will hear the testimony for these three projects, and then we will be continuing the public hearing for 194 Main Street for a comprehensive permit, the residents at Norfolk Station. At this time, Joe, would you read into the record the public hearing for 10 Old Populatic Road?
Notice is hereby given in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws and any and all amendments thereto, that a public hearing will be held by the Zoning Board of Appeals in room 124 Norfolk Municipal Building on Wednesday, August 7th, 2019 for the following application. Ryan Dulac at 7 p.m. for a special permit pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9 as amended, and Section F4A of the Norfolk zoning bylaws to allow the alteration or enlargement of an existing nonconforming structure which does not violate the setback, coverage, or height requirements of E1B, which does violate the setback, coverage, or height requirements of Section E1B, but does not violate those requirements to a greater extent than the original structure. The property is located 10 Old Populatic Road, Assessors Map 4, Block 15, Lot 8, in the R3 zoning district.
Thank you, Joe. Who will be presenting for 10 Old Populatic? Welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I'd like to reopen my special permit that previously expired.
Okay.
So I'd like to just basically stick with the same conditions that I already had permission to pursue.
Go ahead.
Just, I would like to just reopen.
Okay, when did it expire?
I believe it expired actually close to a year and a half or 2 years ago.
Really?
Was it granted?
It was granted.
Okay.
Amy, do we have a record of that?
March 24th of 16.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it would have been 20 days from that date, so April.
So I didn't
Expired.
I didn't realize there was expiration period on a special permit. It was my inexperience at the time. I thought it was the same period as conservation, which was 3 years. So it was my inexperience not knowing how long a special permit was good for.
Okay. Okay. So,
Who signed those? Can you bring up the signatures?
Yeah, my mom.
Oh,
It's Mike.
Bob Luciano and myself.
Yeah,
Very good.
all right.
So you basically have refiled again, went through
Exactly.
the whole
Yep.
thing to have it reopened?
Yep.
Okay. I noticed on your plan, you have got a, is the proposed garage, that wasn't, where does that stand? Because that wasn't part of the initial application, was it?
It was part of the initial application.
It was?
It was. Yep. A 24 by 24 foot 2-bay garage
Added onto the property?
added on. Yep.
Okay. But that garage does not meet our bylaws?
But there is special conditions within the bylaws that allows the structure to not exceed 18 feet. So,
When you say, well, it's a garage,
mm-hmm.
so you're considering an accessory structure?
Yep.
But the problem is it doesn't meet so you're saying the 24 by 24 garage is an accessory structure, and that's why it's the height from the distance to the side setbacks
Exactly, yeah, there's a 50-foot wide swath of land, and they're allowing,
But I don't see anything in the application that talked about this garage. And,
I already had permission for,
Yeah, but I understand that, but you have to reopen the hearing now.
Okay.
Because you've let it expire.
sure,
So looking at it today, I said, there's a garage on here. That wasn't on the original plan. Or wasn't, that I wasn't aware of. And so I looked through your application, I see nothing, it talks about changing, about the work you're gonna do to the house, but it doesn't talk about the garage at all in your application. And so it's sort of, I looked at it and I said, this is new and different. So what is the, so we have no information on this garage, what the height of the garage is.
okay.
You know, and an
I can
accessory,
provide-
and I don't know whether or not an accessory structure of a garage would be considered an accessory structure to this property, where it doesn't meet the side setback requirements. I think it's hard to read, but it looks like it's 17 feet to the left side, and I can't tell what it is to the right side, 8.7 feet? Well, no, I can't tell, because you already have a shed on the property as an
Which you were gonna
accessory
tear it
structure.
down.
Yeah.
Yep.
What is the side setbacks? Do you know on both sides of this?
It was close to, I think it's close to 20 feet or so, but I could confirm.
Yeah,
that
I just don't think you can add a garage. You can't, you're basically creating a non-conforming structure. And even though, and you can't do that. You can have an accessory structure, that the rule is the height of it has to be the distance to the property line. But you can't create a non-conforming structure on the property. And that's what this garage does. It creates a non-conforming structure.
Okay, yep,
So I don't think you can do the garage. I'm surprised it actually got through us a year and a half
first time?
ago.
Yeah,
But I don't think you can do the garage based on our bylaws.
okay. If I could follow back up with that at another point
Okay,
to discuss that, I'll look into, I'll talk to my engineer about the actual details that he provided earlier.
okay. Do you want us to still look at this without the garage attached to
Sure.
it? Do you want us to pull the garage, would you want to pull the garage off this application?
No, I would like to keep it on there.
So maybe we should continue the public hearing until you have a chance to talk to your engineer, and then we'll, next month, come back and you can talk about that with us?
Is that something I could address later as
When you
well?
say
Like,
address
if I were
later.
to build the home right now, I could get permission down the road to build the garage?
What you could do is we would take it off your application. So in other words, your plans show a garage, a proposed garage.
Yep.
We would take the proposed garage off the application, have you sign it, and then when we close the public hearing, we could deliberate just on what you want to do to the home
Sure.
and leave the garage off of
Yeah,
that.
let's do that just to get
Okay.
progress going
Okay.
on this
Yeah.
house.
Mr. Chairman, did we approve this originally with the garage?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Would you bring that up, Amy?
I mean, if we,
Yes, it looks like we did, but it's questionable as to,
I mean, can we go back on something we've,
Well,
I don't know the answer to this, I'm asking
we
the
can
question.
because if he had actually come to us before it expired, it probably would be a question whether or not we could do that. But because his special permit has expired, he's had to file for a new special
Okay,
permit.
yeah.
So when looking at it today, I noticed that it showed a proposed garage, and then suddenly there was actually drawing, and I went and I looked through his criteria, and I saw nothing about a garage. So I said, did we miss this the first time around, or
Because it's expired, we probably.
it's expired, so it's a new application?
All right.
Why would we have put in that which conforms to section F5A of the zoning board bylaws in our original approval?
Yeah, if you could take, yeah.
That's all I'm questioning, Chris.
Oh, because I think, if we go to F5A, oh, we're not, we'll get this resolved.
Of what?
Yeah, it makes, I don't know why it was, I have no idea, because F5A talks about accessory
Accessory
buildings.
buildings, right.
An accessory building talks about distance to a lot line. It doesn't talk about creating a nonconformity. I mean, you can have an accessory building on your property, but it still can't violate zoning. I mean, similar to what we just dealt with on, what was the property we just dealt with? You had the 3 buildings on the one lot,
Was
down
it
off of North
one-
Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
no,
I
it's
mean,
113.
we can't create a nonconformity. So this would be creating a nonconformity.
Okay, I guess what I'd like to see is the original application that was adjudicated back in 2016. If we could do that for the next meeting, or before we deliberate.
Well, we will, let's get through the public hearing first, then we'll go through that.
Sounds good.
Okay? So, at this time, maybe we'll take off the garage
Okay.
at this moment. Just because you can understand my point. Everybody with a non-conforming lot would start adding structures onto their property. The idea is we try to remove non-conformities on our lots. So this actually creates a nonconformity. And an accessory building is certainly allowed. The whole point of an accessory building is the height of the accessory building to the property line, so that people can put sheds similar to what you have on their properties. But you're actually building something brand new on the rear of the property that doesn't meet our zoning bylaws. So that would be the problem with it.
Okay. How come it would get passed, or how come it was passed previously? Have the laws changed since that time?
I could blame it on the chairman back in 2016,
Were
but
you
I
that
won't
good?
do that.
Okay.
But,
you.
but somehow I'll be honest with you, I almost missed it again today looking at it, because I said, what's this 2-car garage sitting here? But I had already read your special permit criteria, and then I looked back and said, how come there's no mention of this garage? So that's what caught my eye. So it might have just been an oversight on the board, and you might have snuck it through, but shame on you for letting your special permit expire. But I believe it or not, the building department would have caught it, because the building department would have caught it and probably would have flagged it, because you would be creating a nonconformity. Do you understand what I'm referring to?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we'll do is, why don't we take off the garage for now?
Okay.
If something comes to light that I'm wrong, we can certainly revisit it. But I think I'm correct in the fact that it's a new structure, you're not fixing an existing, there's no garage there now. There's no slab, there's no nothing.
Nothing,
Okay.
yeah.
I think I'm correct, but let's take it off. If you would sign just stating that you're willing to take it off, so we'll amend your notice of public hearing that you're just gonna do the work on the house. Once we get through the questions in the public review, we'll close the public hearing. We'll look at that, and then at a later time, if you wanna come forward with a garage or something other than that, we can talk about that. That makes some sense. That work?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we're going to, what I'll do is on my plan, I'll just cross out the garage, the proposed garage. I'll ask you to sign at the end of the hearing. And we'll go from there. The only thing I noticed on the house is, and again, not nitpicking, is if you look at the lower left corner, I could not read again, it's hard to read your dimensions on here, is because you're closing off that lower left corner. And if I take a straight edge and run it down, it appears as if you're making that less conforming. No, nope, it's on the house.
Oh, it's on this.
Yeah, on the house, which is what he's renovating. So see your lower left corner there? What is gonna be your distance after you box in that lower left corner?
To the lot line, it's 11 foot. 11
Is
foot
that
1.
11 foot 2 inches?
11 foot 1. It looks
I
like.
see 11-1.
11-1, I see it.
11 1.
There we go.
And that is the same again, is that the same distance in your prior that you would have now?
It is.
Okay, so it's just the way it looks on the drawing. So you will not, that left side setback will not change,
No.
even though you're boxing it in?
Yep.
Okay.
You could always probably make that a condition as well.
Yes, yeah, just to make sure. It's just hard to read you. The scale is so small, that's very difficult to read your numbers. One of the reasons why I picked up your garage. Questions, anything else you want to add to it, or? It sounds like, again, you're just taking an existing home, you're gonna box in the corners, clean it up a little bit. Is it being lived in now?
No.
How long has it been it's not abandoned though, it's,
It's been there for about 5 years.
okay?
Yep.
With no one living in it?
No one living there.
Okay. Okay. And you're not making any other changes other than just changing the, boxing it in, cleaning it up?
I wanted to have an entrance going into the house on the, so the bottom right corner of the home from this perspective here.
Can you show us up there?
Right here, I wanted to put a 4-foot by 6-foot granite set of stairs to go into the home. I didn't know if that
Was
was,
that on your original approval?
it wasn't.
You,
Are they're gonna be like granite steps?
Granite steps, 7-inch slab.
Okay.
you're allowed a platform to extend into the setback, but it is not 4 by 6. We can get you the exact measurement, but it's
Okay.
less than 4 by 6. Is it one step? Is that what you're trying to do, is one step?
I'm, yeah, gonna do one landing, and then, depending on the height of the foundation, I'm gonna have, I think, four steps. So it's
4
gonna,
steps.
it's gonna protrude, 40 inches.
I think you're gonna be in trouble with that, because the bylaw allows for a landing, but if you're starting to do steps, you're gonna probably have 8-inch runs. You're getting close to being over the, I think it's 32 or 36 inches. You're gonna probably get further out than that, and that's not allowed. Then you would be encroaching into the setback.
Okay.
So I think, do you want to just refer to it as a landing at this time? And then when you get closer to your construction, it will have to meet the threshold
Sure,
for a landing,
that's fine.
okay?
Yep. Where can I find that information for the dimensions
We'll
of
get
an
that for you.
allowable
We can get
porch
that from the
or-
building. You can get it from the building department, but I think we can get it too. There's actually some, we have some case study on that. Amy, Needham Street,
Yeah.
it's the platform we use for Needham Street. So Amy tomorrow can get that for you, what the actual, the verbiage is with regard to what a platform can be that
Okay.
encroaches into the setback.
All right.
Okay? Devin, any questions?
No.
No, I'm just curious about the garage and how that got through. Would it be permissible if the dimensions were different? If the height of the mirrored the setback
If he
distance?
met the setbacks, he could do it, but
Do
whereas
that.
he doesn't meet the setbacks,
So if he were to meet the setbacks?
he could do it.
You could do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right,
Yeah.
so if you can meet
Yeah.
the setbacks, you can still do a structure there.
Right.
What are the setbacks in that particular area?
What zone are you in? The R2?
R2,
I think, well, it says it, you've got side setbacks of 25 feet.
25? Okay.
Yeah. And your lot is only,
50, or?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think we must have been looking at this purely as an accessory building, but again, the whole point of the accessory building is that you don't have to put an accessory building in the center of a lot. You can put it closer to a side setback, as long as the height is no further closer to the perimeter of the property than the height of the building. Obviously, to allow people to put sheds on their property, because if you had to put a shed in the middle of your backyard, it might look silly.
Is that different?
So that was the whole point of accessory buildings, but somehow this one sort of snuck through a little bit. Yeah. Joe, any questions?
Just, is a garage allowed to be considered an accessory building? I mean,
Again, is a garage allowed to be an accessory building?
right, meaning if we're using F4, F5A.
I think this is beyond an accessory building.
Okay.
I think it's a garage, it's a new structure on the property.
Hmm.
I think it needs to be permitted. So that's why I say I question it, whether or not it's,
But let's just say,
Permissible.
let's say you had 100 feet to play with, right? And he came in with a garage that could be centered in there and meet the setbacks,
Yes.
meaning to the height.
yeah.
But it wouldn't be
The height
considered,
isn't a problem if
Right.
it meets the side setbacks.
I mean, we could still approve a garage if it met all the setbacks.
Yes.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it, all right.
Yeah.
No other questions?
Yeah.
I'm now confused with what you just said. You said the height isn't a problem if it meets
The side setbacks.
setbacks.
Yeah.
If it doesn't meet the side setbacks,
For an accessory building, it can be closer to the boundaries than based on the height. So in other words, if you want to build a 10 by 20 shed, it's going to be 12 feet high. It has to be 12 feet from the property line, and you're allowed to do that.
instead of 25 feet.
Because it'd be within the setbacks.
Okay.
Correct.
So really then, what I'm hearing is the determination in 2016 by this board, which I was a member, was that we said that this garage was an accessory building.
We must,
Okay, that's, that, it's,
yeah. But I think that's questionable. I think that's questionable.
and I guess the question I have, I'm looking through here, is what is the determination of an accessory building?
Did you look in your definition section?
And I get accessory use or building, the use of land or a building customary incidental to and located in the same. But I don't have a
No, it
definition
doesn't.
of that.
What I worry about is, think about it, if you have a, say you have 23 feet to your side setback on your property, okay? And you have a house there and you want to build a garage. We wouldn't allow a garage to be built because it wouldn't meet the side setback. So if a person then said, I'll leave a foot in between my house and my garage, and I'll build a,
Call it an accessory building.
call it an accessory building, that would not be allowed. So I think, we'll talk to the building department and sort of get a ruling on that, but I just think if you want to proceed, and again, if we find out the building department says, you know, we've made them, they would accept this as an accessory building, we'll certainly, I'll have Amy let you know, and we'll consider that part of this review, and we'll contact you right away. But I just think, where it's a new building, and where this lot is a non-conforming lot, that it really, it borders on the fact that this is not an accessory building, it's actually a new structure on the property. And so it would be adding non-conformity to this property,
Okay.
okay? But we'll verify it. Maybe we're a little smarter, maybe we're not over the 3-year period, but we will check it out if that's fair,
That's fine.
okay?
Yep.
So no other questions from the board?
Is this, one lot or two lots?
One.
One lot?
One. So that private old Populatic road just runs through the middle?
I guess it's a paper road.
Paper road, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a traveled road, or?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Is the other properties being accessed by that road?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's not town approved.
Okay. So it's not a town-approved road?
No.
Hmm? Yeah. Okay, if there's no other questions from the board, we'll open it up to the public. Is there any concerns in the public with regard to this proposal? Go ahead.
I have a quick question about, does the house have 11,
For the record, please.
Gillette, 27 Rockwood Road. Does the house have 11-foot setbacks on both sides?
There's 11-foot setback on the left side. What is the right side?
12-foot one.
12 foot on the right side?
Yep.
So it's already a non-conforming lot.
Right.
So if he was gonna center that garage in the back with more than 11 feet, he technically wouldn't make it any more non-conforming than it is.
But it's not there, so it's more non-conforming because there is no garage there.
Yeah, but he wants to add the garage. The board's
But he's not
supposed
adding it to the
help.
house.
Yeah, but the board's supposed to be here to help a homeowner. They're supposed to, this is a non-conforming lot already. You have 11 feet on each side. You should be using the present setback on that house.
You need a microphone. Chris is grabbing a microphone for him, right?
I'm all done.
We understand your concern. I think it's a question as whether or not,
But you already approved it.
well, the board approved it, but it
You
expired.
can stay, whatever you want to use.
That's right.
But you did already approve it once.
Yep, we
So
did.
There's some gray area here now,
There is some gray area, we'll rectify it. We'll rectify it.
hopefully in the homeowner's interest.
Hmm?
Hopefully in the homeowner's interest.
We will look at the original application and the original approval and all of the terms and conditions and evaluation that went into making the original approval prior to looking at this. So if there's some information in there that we didn't either take into account now or that wasn't taken into account with your new submission, that we'll be able to use that in terms of making a judgment. So,
All set, Tom? Okay. No other questions from the public? No other no information? Okay. At this time, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any further discussion?
Excuse me.
Yep.
Are you closing it or continuing it?
No, we're actually going to close it, just because so in order so we can rule on his request to renovate the house. And if we find, and what I'll do is during the discussion, I'll make, again, the comment that we will verify with regard to this garage, whether or not it qualifies as an accessory building or not. If we're wrong, we'll certainly we will certainly take that into account during our deliberations. If we're correct, we'll certainly let the applicant know. Okay? So we have a second. Further discussion is, what I just said, we will review with the building department and the town planner to verify whether the structure actually does qualify as an accessory building or whether or not it is actually considered a more non-conformity. And we'll get back to you either way. In the meantime, once we get through everything else, we'll deliberate again on your initial application. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Again, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, it is 7:31. At this time, we have the 15 Bridie Lane special permit. Joe, would you read that into the record?
Notice hereby given in accordance with Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws and any and all amendments thereto, that a public hearing will be held by the Zoning Board of Appeals in Room 124 at the Norfolk Municipal Building on Wednesday, August 7, 2019, for the following application. Boston Solar, Blake Randolph, at 7:15 p.m. for a special permit pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 9, as amended, and Sections D, 2, C10, and F5 of the Norfolk zoning bylaws to allow a small-scale residential ground-mounted installation of 35 solar panels. The property is located at 15 Bridie Lane, Assessors Map 7, Block 46, Lot 211, in the R1 zoning district.
Thank you, Joe. And you'll be presenting? Come on up.
Come up.
Yeah, you can come up, sit at the table if you want, or sit up front here,
Yeah, I'll just sit up front.
whatever you're more comfortable with.
So my name is Stefan Rossellini. I'm representing Boston Solar. Blake couldn't be here, but I'm the customer experience manager for Boston Solar. I'll be representing the installer and design contractor here. So our proposal here is for, as you said, a residential ground-mounted system. It's 11.55 kilowatts, 35 panels. It's about 39 feet wide by 17 feet long and 12 feet in height. We're looking to install it basically on a side backyard, as indicated there on the plan. It's outside 50 feet from all of the borders of the property, and we're looking to basically just get approval. It's not being used to export any additional power into the grid that's being sent anywhere else for profit. It's for, size specifically for the usage of the home, where you don't feel that it creates any issues with it.
Can you speak up? I'm sorry.
Yep, no problem.
I couldn't hear. A bunch of that got mumbled.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, as I was saying, the system is sized for the usage of the home. It's not meant to be, something that is making extra profit off of sending energy to the grid, something like a solar farm. So we do feel it's appropriate for a residential zoning district. It's outside of 50 feet from all sides of the lot. And it's also, if you're using the accessory definition, the 12 feet removed from all the principal structures, which is the height. And then as far as the install goes, it's a two-part install. We install the framing for the array first and then dig a trench, which goes from the panels to the back of the house, where it's connected to the electrical system eventually. There's a disconnect, an emergency disconnect located adjacent to the utility meter. So for any safety issues that come up, that's part of what firefighters know, to go directly to the utility meter to look for the disconnect. So that'll be on the basically front of the house, adjacent to the utility meter, or directly around the corner from that. Other than that, yeah, I think the area is screened in with trees. I don't know, do you guys have the pictures? We sent those a little bit later, so I'm not sure if you guys have copies of those? I've got a couple extra copies if
Do
needed.
you have them on the screen, Amy?
Yeah, I did. I didn't make copies because I didn't want to.
Oh, we can just see them up there. So what was the distances from the property lines?
So it's over 50 feet from all property lines.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a little bit hard to see on the screen there, but we marked it out with string. That's the proposed location. So we've got it from a couple different angles. That goes. If we go down to the other picture that shows it just from kind of each side. Oh, yeah, sorry. So that's looking towards the house. And so you can see there's trees kind of screening it off from that area. And the same you'll see with the next picture.
Would this be visible from the Bridie Lane itself?
I don't believe so, no. That would be screened off by those trees. I think there's another angle there. If you go, that shows kind of pointing towards where the street was, if you keep going down. Yeah, so you can see that's looking towards where the street would be.
So it might be somewhat visible during the winter, for example. I think that's the roadway I see out there, right?
That's the driveway where our truck is.
Right. So, but to the right of your truck, that would be the roadway, Bridie Lane.
Behind the trees, yeah.
Yeah. Is that the existing house I see, or is that that's the house across the street?
On the left-hand side, that's
On-
the shed.
All right, on the right hand. What am I seeing on the right?
That's another property.
Another property, okay.
If you look at the site plan, it's
Is that a lot?
marked as Lot 11A.
Lot-
Why don't we let him do his presentation?
Yep.
And then we can ask him questions as opposed to interrupting him during his presentation.
Okay.
Okay?
There was a pause, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. I don't have too much more. Just noting that, the construction won't have any impact on any roadways. All of the equipment is going to be contained on the property. So our solar equipment, the inverters are mounted to the racking system where the ground mount is, and then the disconnect switch is mounted on the house next to the utility meter. And then as far as noise, there's no additional noise that comes from the array or any other disturbance that we can think of to the property of the district. We did look into conservation lands on the property. We were notified by the conservation commissions that there are no wetland or any protected areas. As far as the town is concerned, it is located in a protected habitat zone, which is administered by the state. So on that end, it's the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. So I reached out to them by email. I have copies of that as well, which I sent over prior to the hearing, but they stated that there's an exemption for construction or removal of structures that are secondary to the primary residence and located within existing paved areas and lawfully developed and maintained lawns or landscaped areas on residential properties, provided there's no expansion of such existing paved lawn and landscaped areas. So essentially, we're not expanding any of the lawn. You can see there's that's an already developed and in-use lawn. So there's that. They notified me that based on our site plan and description of the project, that we wouldn't need to file anything with them.
Okay. Do we have a copy of that letter, Amy?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Yeah, if you could provide that to the board, that'd be great. You can do it at the end of the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah. Amy, could you bring back the drawings, the drawings of the house and where the solar panels could be? Okay. Do you have anything else, or?
No, I think that's it. So any questions that you have?
Oh, is a lot 11A, is that another home, or is that part of this? That's not part of this property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a home on that property?
Yes.
Okay. And what is I guess it's lot 12. It's hard, again, lot 12. Is there a home on that property as well?
Yes.
There is. So both those properties have homes on them.
Yes.
So visibly, they could probably see this solar panel from their properties. It looks
Yeah, I
like,
think,
it looks like your applicant's driveway is the long driveway. Looks like it's a longer driveway that goes in beyond both these.
Yep.
So that you could see the solar panel from those two properties because of the length of the driveway and the setback of the house.
Yeah, if you're looking back from the house, I mean, it's not totally screened by the trees, but it's, I would say the majority of it is screened.
And do you plan any additional buffering of trees to those two properties?
We don't currently have any plans for additional buffers there.
Okay.
Can I
Other
ask a question?
questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
have the abutters been approached about this at all?
We haven't reached out to them individually, other than, getting the abutters notification and going through the, standard zoning process. I'm not sure if the homeowner has, but we haven't directly contacted anyone adjacent to the property.
Right, in that picture I was questioning earlier, we were probably seeing the house of 11A, I think, when we, okay.
Right.
Yeah, and what prevents them, is there an option that they could be offering power back to the grid?
So the way it works normally is that, so we take a look at the historical consumption of the house, and then we look at what the system can produce, and we try to size it as closely to that as possible. So there will be months generally during the summer was what you would see is that the system would feed energy back into the grid, and then because the production of the solar is the highest during those months, and then you build up a credit on your electric bill, and that carries into the months where it's not producing as much to cover when you have an actual positive bill, when the system isn't producing as much. So the credit just stays on the electrical account. It's not, monetized any other way other than that.
Don?
So there is a home on 11A, which says number 13 Brady Lane. And then is there a home on lot 15 also? Or, excuse me, on 15 Brady Lane? It doesn't
Yes,
come-
both of them have houses on.
Both of them have houses?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is 15 Brighty Lane, right? This is 15 Brighty Lane.
Yes.
Right, so you're talking about the middle lot to the right, which is, I think, lot.
Okay, then, on so this is all part of 15, which is what I see.
Right.
Okay, break out there.
I do have one more question, Chris.
Go ahead.
Has Boston Solar installed anything like this anywhere in Norfolk?
Norfolk, no. We've installed them in several other towns, but not Norfolk yet.
Okay, something close by, or?
We've installed them in Harvard, a couple northern towns, I think Hamilton, Charlton. Those are
Okay,
a couple
I
ones.
just
that come to
wondering if
mind.
it's like a Franklin or Medfield or something, but no, okay.
Is the homeowner here? Who, the applicant, is the applicant, or are you representing the applicant?
I'm representing them, yeah. I don't know. I think they may have been planning to come, but I don't know.
Has the applicant given any, first of all, has the applicant had any conversations with the direct abutter for 13 Brady Lane that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, but that wouldn't have been something that I would know in my role.
All right, and the second thing, has the applicant considered any additional screening, i.e., evergreens of some type, to ensure that the abutter at 13 Brady Lane has maintained a level of privacy to this?
We haven't advised any of that. We've basically just, been going through the process to, solicit any comments and anything that might be necessary. But we're starting from a point where, we believe that the array can stay as is, and if there are any additional requirements to get the special permit, then we would go by it based on that.
And just to verify, the array is 12 feet high, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Amy, have we heard from any of the abutters?
I'll check.
Meaning, I don't know, oh, they might be in the audience. We don't, okay, we don't, I'll have to wait, okay.
Mike?
Yep. Are there going to be any batteries for like storage when, if the house isn't using up all the electricity?
There's a potential to install them at a later date. Our contract is just for installation of the solar system. So, for example, if the grid is down, then the system will automatically shut off. The power isn't usable as backup power. So it'll just, until grid functionality is restored, the power from the system won't go anywhere.
Okay. And then my second question is there going to be any enclosure for those panels?
So we don't do any fencing. Basically, what we do is we install a protective mesh on the back of the array that's basically flush with the back of the panels. So that protects anybody from being able to access the wiring behind the panels. But what we've done in other towns and gotten approvals for is just putting the mesh back there and not adding any additional enclosures around the array itself.
Is there essentially a threshold where you have to enclose panels?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I know those type of requirements tend to be linked more with the larger commercial projects where it's, several megawatt installations. I mean, the projects that we've installed, we haven't been required to fence in any of them. I'm not sure, what the statute on that might be, but it hasn't been required for any of the installations that we've done.
Okay.
I had a discussion with Peter Diamond after his letter that he sent to the board, and he advised that because this has to get both an electrical permit and a building permit, that he advised the ZBA to allow the building and electrical permitting departments to determine whether or not fencing and what protective measures would have to be incorporated, because every system's slightly different, and they have the expertise to determine whether a fence would have to be put around it, or whether or not any kind of enclosure, or what kind of safety measures would have to be incorporated into the system.
Okay.
So Peter Diamond suggested that we allow the electrical department to handle that.
My main concern with asking that question was if a fence was required to be used, that it, not a chain link fence in that back lawn area.
Not a chain link fence?
Yeah,
Yeah.
as opposed to something more suitable. I don't know.
Well, do you want to make a suggestion that we can pass on to them as far as what you would think? What would you want to see?
I don't want
We
to
could
suggest
condition- we
something.
could If we, once we deliberate, we could condition it. if
Maybe we can
feel-
condition, but
Right.
my only concern with that is I don't know what the requirements are for fencing for, I know you talked about large scale versus
Right.
small scale. I don't know if they require a certain type of fencing, so I don't want it to be conditioned such that you have to use a certain type where you couldn't even use that type of fence. I don't know.
Well, we could talk about it during our deliberation as to what we might want to put in for fencing.
Okay.
Whether or not we wanted to pass it by the ZBA or what have you, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions from the board at the moment? Anybody in the audience here to talk to? Ma'am, you just have to announce your name and grab a mic if you wouldn't mind.
Hi, yes, my name is Ulrike Mender. I'm from across the street from 18 Bridie Lane, and I have a question and a concern.
Okay.
So the first question is, what is the rationale for doing this on the ground and not potentially putting it on the roof?
Yeah, so the considerations for making it a ground mount versus a roof mounted systems are partly based on the orientation of the roof. So it's an east-west facing roof, which is less efficient for solar, and our ground mount installation allows it to be fully south facing, which is maximizing the production and also allowing it to fully offset the anticipated annual consumption for the home. And then the other concerns were just around aesthetics for the roof, and also the possibility of needing a roof replacement with the building mounted panels, which would represent an additional cost if you have to remove and reinstall the panels, and also just a loss of production while the roof is happening. We did a survey of the roof and recommended that it should be, would likely have to be replaced soon after our install, and so we considered all those factors, maximizing the production and avoiding the added cost of a potential re-roof and locating the ground mount there.
Thank you. And then my question is, and I think it was alluded to, the visibility. And I think, can I just potentially step up there and these maps are very hard to read, at least for the folks who are not used to them. I think the question is sort of, the concern is, I think, for all of the abutters is to what extent is it visible from Bridie Lane? And of course, as we're talking about aesthetics and costs and the potential impact on property value. Now, my impression is, can I
Sure.
step up there and
Approach.
point up to this?
Where's your home?
We are on the other side. We're basically here.
Okay.
So it seems like, and it's not really clear from here where the other house is. I think 11A, lot 11A here. I mean, clearly there's a house here. I can't interpret this. Can you show us where these panels are in relation to the house that we saw through the window? Because that has implications for everybody else seeing it. And then,
The best angle that we have is back to the photos that we were showing earlier. So that's kind of the best angle that we have. That's looking out at 11A. So that's the house that's on 11A that you're seeing in the background.
and that's where the strings are, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically right in the back of
So
that
the
house.
15 Bridie Lane, the house would be to the left of that location.
Okay. So I think it's probably less of a concern for us folks on the other side, because I think it will be shielded by the other house. But it might really be an issue for the folks in that house, because, I mean, they're really looking straight directly at it. Their backyard is facing it. So I think probably from the abutter's perspective, the question is to what extent is it visible also in the wintertime, and what are the potential implications on property value? And it might be different depending on which angle you are in.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anybody? Go ahead, sir. Grab a mic.
Jim O'Neill from 16 Bridie Lane, and I'm having a little hard time reading the map also, but if that truck is in the driveway, my house is directly across the street. And I have the same concerns as my neighbor, that I don't want to see it. I have no problem with the installation as long as I don't have to drive down the street and see solar panels, or look out my driveway or my bedroom window. I do it every day. I don't want to see it when I go home.
Okay.
So we do the bigger fields, the 7 megawatts, the 5 megawatts. We do them all over the Northeast, but they're out in the middle of a field. No one has to look at them. I don't have a problem with solar panels on the roof, but looking at a ground mount system, it's just not, it's not good for the neighborhood. So if they do something with trees and bushes, we're fine. But I can't see that. We're not going to be able to see it from anything I've seen yet. I may be wrong.
Yeah.
If we can look at some more pictures.
Okay. Would it be out of line for me to make a comment there?
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the abutter list. I happen to be an abutter.
Okay.
And so I just looked at the list. Now that, the house isn't shown at number 13, but it was just built and just sold.
That's correct. It's
Didn't
brand
even
new.
look at the abutter list. So those abutters were actually not on the abutter list, so they were not notified of
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
So
They actually haven't moved into the house yet.
Yeah.
they haven't moved in yet? Okay.
Okay.
So I just wanted to,
So they probably were not notified.
yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I can make a recommendation, I'd like to schedule a site visit. I want to see what, it's hard to tell from these pictures in terms of screening that might potentially be needed. I'd like to go out and look at it.
Mhm. I think, I agree with you, and I think it might also be wise, and I don't know if other members of the board, is that you provide us with maybe an architectural or landscape plan that would incorporate some screening. Obviously, you know better what kind of screening would not prevent your panels from working properly, but I think you're hearing it, and I think you can get a sense of from the board is that we'd probably like to see some kind of screening. So maybe in conjunction with a site visit, you could put together a landscape plan for us that might put in some shielding along that front side, as well as even maybe even incorporate what Devin was asking, even though this board will not take up fencing, but just maybe some ideas for potential fencing if the electrical department is looking for that. Would that be possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
So would that be prepared for the site visit or for the next hearing?
For the next, your landscape plan would be for the next hearing. The site visit would obviously be between that time.
Yep.
Okay? Does that work?
One other question. If we haven't heard definitively from the building department on what a fence may or may not look like, and the potential fence may affect what they do for landscaping, so I think we've got a couple balls up in the air at the same time. So I think somehow we have to figure out how to coordinate what Peter Diamond may or may not recommend, and what they may or may not do for landscaping.
Yeah. No,
Does that
good
make
point.
sense?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, we're not going to close the hearing, right?
No, we're not.
Yeah,
We're
no,
gonna
don't-
continue the
yeah.
hearing.
But I'd like to also hear from the applicant, meaning the owner, if that's possible.
I think he's representing the owner.
Right, but would the owner wouldn't come to a continued hearing?
As far as I know, they were planning on being there, but
Okay, yeah, yeah. Because just the fact that you're saying that, like you were expecting them to be here, but they're not here, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to me.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of standing in the last minute for somebody who couldn't be here, so I don't have all the.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Okay, yeah, but maybe because we're continuing hearing, it'd be good to have the applicant come to
So-
this.
Can I
You
ask a
wanna,
question?
Sure.
What is the output voltage of the panels?
The voltage would be at 240 volts.
On the output side?
120, 240 is what we match the single phase service of the house. So all the equipment operates at 120, 240.
You need to have them, he needs to grab the mic, yeah, can you, I think we're down to one mic tonight, so.
So,
We actually have a second one right there.
but I was saying, so all of the equipment is meant for single phase service, so single phase residential service, which operates at 120, 240 for the voltage.
So what is the output voltage of the panel? Is it 120, 240 at DC?
That would be my belief, yeah. I don't have the spec sheet in front of me, but
They don't make that voltage in solar. So it has to be determined because most of those panels, 99% of them, plug in. And as soon as that panel sees sun, it's making electricity. People that own that house have young kids running around. So one of those kids goes over near those panels and grabs one of those plugs, it's gonna be a problem.
But as we said, the building and electrical department will actually address the safety issues, not the ZBA, so that's why that will be handled by them. So I think your concerns were, your concerns have already been identified to the electrical department. So do you want to talk to the owner about a site visit before you set something up with us, or are you in a position to set up a site visit with us now, schedule a date, or?
yeah, I would say let's go ahead and schedule a date and keep things moving.
What would you like, a Saturday? I guess a Saturday morning would probably be,
Saturday morning?
As early as you'd like it.
This Saturday?
Hmm?
This Saturday?
can you do this Saturday? Is everybody available this Saturday? Can you do this Saturday? Which is the 10th?
I will not personally be here. I'll have to check with my team to see if anybody is available. Usually we have limited capacity for weekend visits. Is there any possibility for a weekday visit, or?
It's just hard because 4 of the 5 members have full-time jobs, so, and some of them are in Boston, so, and outside, so that makes it difficult for, it could be a late evening visit. We could also do a 7 o'clock maybe, or 7:30.
Being it's still
That would
summer.
work for
Yeah.
me.
That would work, being it's still summer.
Could we do tomorrow
Yeah, I
night?
think that would be easier to accommodate.
Okay. Do you know what nights would work? Do you want to pick a night, or do you have a night that you're,
Would you be available tomorrow night?
I won't be, so yeah, I'd have to check. So I guess if we could maybe pick a day for next week,
Yeah.
that would give some time to
okay?
align the schedules.
How about next Tuesday evening, the 13th? Does that work?
Not for me.
Tuesday the 13th, that doesn't work for you?
No.
How about,
Wednesday, Thursday?
how about Wednesday the 14th?
Fine.
Wednesday the 14th there's a COMCOM meeting though, right, on Wednesday the 14th?
Oh, yeah, I might be attending that.
How about the 15th? Anybody up for the 15th? 15th work for everybody?
Yeah.
It's fine
15th?
with me.
Hmm?
It's fine with me.
Fine with me.
15th?
Fine with me.
Okay, so we'll let's plan on a site visit for the 15th. Amy, you'll post that?
Yes, you'll confirm it first, though?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll send an email tomorrow morning.
All right.
That's 7 p.m. on the 15th.
It's probably
Yeah,
the right time.
7:30 is better for you?
No, well,
7?
let's do
7 o'clock.
Yeah, seven's
Okay.
good.
We just got a couple people who travel, so we want to make sure they get here.
Go up to that page up at the top.
Got to grab a mic again if you want to.
This one?
Yes, I'm just reading, that's all.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so,
You need my-
I know we should have.
okay, so we're going to have a site visit on the 15th at 7 o'clock.
Oh,
And,
sorry.
And could I have a motion? And why don't we'll continue the public hearing till the 21st? Does that work for you? To continue this public hearing till the 21st?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll continue, so could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for 15 Brighty Lane till August 21st at 7:15 PM?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you on the 15th at 7 o'clock. Okay, we're running a little behind here. We'll catch up. It's now 8 o'clock. Joe, would you read into the record the public hearing for 39 Mirror Lake special permit?
Notice hereby given in accordance with Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws and any and all amendments thereto, that a public hearing will be held by the Zoning Board of Appeals in Room 124 in Norfolk Municipal Building on Wednesday, August 7th, 2019, for the following application. Mark Gilmore at 7:30 PM for a special permit pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 9 as amended, and Section F4A of the Norfolk zoning bylaws to allow the alteration or enlargement of an existing nonconforming structure which does violate the setback coverage or height requirements of Section E1B, but does not violate those requirements to a greater extent than the original structure. Property is located 35 Leland Road, Assessor's Map 4, Block 11, Lot 33, in the R2 zoning district.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening. And who will be presenting for you this evening?
Geez, Rick, we haven't seen you for a while.
No, I realize that.
Do you miss us?
I do.
How are you, Rick?
It's been a long summer. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you gentlemen doing?
Good, thanks.
Good evening, Rick Goodrow with United Consultants, here with the Gilmores, the owners of the property located at 35 Leland Road. The applicants are proposing to raise the existing structure, which is located here, serviced by a stone driveway, a recently installed septic system. Site has some walkways and landscaping to the front and side of the property, some retaining walls stepping down to Kingsbury Pond, which have variations of brick pavers, patios, and stone patios, concrete patios as well. So the proposal is to construct a new house, which we've provided a second view here. The new house will be serviced by an asphalt driveway. Connection will be made to the existing septic system, which again has been installed in the last 5 to 10 years. The applicants are also proposing to construct a deck to the rear of the property. Access will be via the driveway into a garage. Connections will be remade with the water service to provide municipal water connection for the property. The property is located in an R2 zoning district. We've provided you with the requirements of the district. Obviously, the lot area and frontage are to remain the same, but what we have done is increase the setbacks that are proposed from what exists. And on the left side of the structure and the front of the structure, I believe, we have decreased the setback to the right of the structure, but that setback will be in compliance with the zoning district where the structure is located. And again, the rear of the building will be in compliance as well. So the left setback and front setback will not meet the requirements of the zoning district, but will be greater than what exists currently.
Less non-conforming.
Less non-conforming.
Amy, can you, we don't have the map in our packages. Can you load this map? Yeah, can you blow this up a little bit, just,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I did bring
oh, that's great.
11 by 17.
Thank you, always prepared, as usual. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Still yours.
Okay, that's okay. Oh, mine's different than
Thanks,
yours.
Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, actually.
And I think we can all see on the right, Rick has done a great job of giving us in his legend the required, the existing, and the proposed, which shows that in all cases, the nonconformity is being reduced.
Yeah, so just to summarize, we have 12.2 feet to the left. We're increasing it to 18. We have 31.5 to the front, which is being increased to 45. 60.1 to the right, which is being decreased to 30.9, but exceeds the 25-foot requirement. 30.6 to the rear, which is going to be listed in that chart because I'm not seeing it on there. So to the rear, we're going from approximately 20 feet to 27 feet.
Correct, because you're going to the new deck, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, actually, right there's a dimension. Thank you. I was looking at the rear corner. So 27.2 is the setback to the deck.
Right. See, I read it. Okay. The driveway staying in the existing location, correct?
Generally, in the existing location, it's pretty large now. It goes from the retaining wall all the way over to the side. We're actually going to decrease the width of the curb cut
Okay.
and pull it away from the left of butter.
Questions for Rick?
The existing shed, Rick,
Yes,
is that gonna stay?
yes, it is.
And I don't see a size on that, but it's just a storage shed?
Yeah, like an 8x8, Mark?
Joe, nothing? Mike,
All set?
Kevin?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay. Any questions from abutters or residents? Tim? All right.
So I just want to clarify one thing. The rear setback, which I'm looking, the distance from the existing house to would appear to be the property line, which is also, which is a little less than the historical edge of the pond. If I read that correctly, it says
That's correct.
it was 30.6, is that correct?
Correct.
And the new distance as proposed
27.2, and that's to the deck.
to the deck, okay,
With the required setback being 25.
right.
Okay.
There's no special setback for waterfront.
Is this going to Concom at all for review?
Yes, we're actually scheduled to meet with them a week from today on the 14th.
Okay.
And we have had the agent out on the site for a site walk prior to filing, got some input from Janet.
Okay.
Okay,
All set.
that's, yeah, it's Concom's thing.
Yep. I have no other questions. Close the public hearing. Joe?
Make a motion to close the public hearing for 35 Leland Road for to allow the alteration or enlargement of an existing non-conforming structure which does not violate the setback coverage or height, which does violate the setback coverage or height requirements of E1, of section E1, F1, excuse me, E1B, but does not violate those requirements to a greater extent than the original structure.
Second. Do we have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, we may not get a chance to deliberate this tonight. We may have to deliberate the next meeting, but we'll do our best, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
So actually, I think do I have to announce that our deliberation would be on the 21st, would be our deliberation.
Okay, I don't think we need to, no.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to.
okay, so that'll be our deliberation.
When will the deliberation be?
The
21st,
Yes.
okay.
Rick, good to see you.
Thank you.
care.
Thanks.
Chris, do we have the ability to deliberate prior to Concom making comments?
We do, but we may want to wait.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just saying if,
Yeah.
in other words, this looks pretty clean cut.
Yeah.
With the exception of if they turn around and say, you can't be 3 feet close to the water.
Right. So we may, I think, when are they meeting, Amy, did you say, 14th? So we could, I think deliberating on the 21st makes some sense.
Good.
My goodness. Okay, it is 8:10, and at this time, we're gonna take Chris, we're gonna take a 2-minute recess, and then we are going to continue the public hearing for 194 Main Street, the comprehensive permit. I will be recusing myself from this public hearing due to a financial relationship with the owner of the property. Mike Kaliza, the vice chairman, will be chairing this comprehensive permit. So we'll take a 2-minute recess, Chris, and then we'll be back.
you give me a thumbs up yet? Okay, I guess we're live, and I believe we're back on air. Welcome back to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Joe, if you'll read notice of public hearing, we'll get the process started.
Yeah, notice hereby given in accordance with Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws and any and all amendments thereto, that a public hearing will be held by the Norfolk Zoning Board of Appeals in room 124 of the Norfolk Municipal Building, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass. On August 7, 2019 for the following application. Norfolk Station LLC at 7:45 p.m. for a comprehensive permit filed pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48B, and the regulations promulgated under the construction of a project called the Residence at Norfolk Station, consisting of 72 age-restricted 55-plus rental units in a single 3-story building. The rental units will be an even mix of 1- and 2-bedroom units. The applicant proposes that 25% of the rental units, 18, will be affordable. The property is located at 194 Main Street within the B1 zoning district. Reference Assessors Map 14, Block 49, Lot 14.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Al, welcome. Thank you, Mike. Glad you're here. We're looking forward to this public hearing on this project. It looks very interesting. Who will be doing your presentation tonight? And if you could introduce your team.
Mike Shaughnessy is my attorney. Mike Shaughnessy is the attorney, Bob Forbes is the engineer, and Greg Cerunian the architect.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shaughnessy, if you want to go ahead and give us an overview of the project, that'd be a good way to start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name is Michael O'Shaughnessy. I'm here tonight on behalf of Norfolk Station LLC. That is the applicant. We set this entity up specifically for the development of this project. Al is the manager of the LLC. We are seeking a comprehensive permit from you folks authorizing the construction of a 72-unit, 3-story building. It'll be a mix of 1- and 2-bedroom units at the property located at 194 Main Street. Before we get into the project, there's a couple of jurisdictional things I'd like to highlight for the board. To be eligible to be before you here today, there's 3 criteria we need to meet. 1, we have to be a limited dividend organization. This project will comply with that, and what that means is we're going to restrict the amount of profit we can make on this project. The second issue is it has to be fundable by a subsidizing agency. In my packet to you folks, you'll see a letter from Mass Housing that says, yep, this project is fundable. And the third component is we have to control the site. Again, in the package you were given, you'll see there is a purchase and sale agreement between Norfolk Station LLC and it's Rocco Realty, whatever the entity name is, so we control the site. So since we satisfy those 3 components, we are properly before you tonight. As you can see on the screen, here's our project. It's a really attractive building. It's about 1 acre of building on a 2.5-acre site. As I've said, there's going to be a mix of 1- and 2-bedroom units. This is the rendering from the front. We have 110 parking spaces. 60 are going to be underground behind the building. If you've ever been out to the site, there's an existing building there. It's the strip mall, and you can drive around the back. There's a significant grade change. We've taken advantage of that grade change to be able to get some parking underneath. That was one of the aspects of the project. Then when we first brought this to the town, that the folks we were meeting with really liked. We have 50 spaces of above-ground parking in the rear. We have a 24 by 24 garage. It'll be a maintenance building. We've got a bocce court going in. We've got a dog walk area, and we also have a pickle court. Again, this is a good project. It's in close proximity to the train station, as you all know, and we think that's a really good component of this project, and it's a really good, ideal site. I'm going to ask Bob Forbes, who's our project engineer, to kind of give you guys a better overview of what's going on there. And then when Bob's done, I'm going to ask Greg to speak up, because we really spent a lot of time with the aesthetics of this project.
Thank you. Again, my name is Bob Forbes from Zenith Consulting Engineers. If you wouldn't mind putting up the existing conditions plan.
Do you know where I would, would that be on the stamp set of plans?
Yes.
And you know,
Next. That one. Perfect. Thank you very much. So the existing site, I just wanted to go over some of the existing site features. And as Mike said, it's 2.5, it's actually 2.57 acres on Main Street. To situate you, this is actually, you're probably all familiar with the building. It's Bork's is in this building now. There are 3 essential uses on the site right now. One is an existing residential dwelling. The commercial and office structure is here, and there's a garage building back here in this part of the site. Mike mentioned the proximity to the commuter rail station, and you can see the MBTA commuter rail tracks are literally abutting the site. And I measured the distance from this corner to the station, and it's actually about 100 feet, believe it or not. It's right there. So the rest of the site under existing conditions, there's quite a bit of paved area. It's a little bit difficult to see here, but it's hatched in a little bit grayer than the rest. So most of this front of this site is paved. And then you have a mix of wooded areas and gravel areas and lawn areas for the remainder of the site. Now, if you wouldn't mind going to the next sheet, please. So it'll be the site plan. There you go. Perfect. Thank you very much. Mike mentioned some of the amenities that we're proposing with the project, and there's going to be an on-site maintenance building here. The building housing all of the residential units is this structure here, and the parking is behind and, as Mike mentioned, on the bottom floor of the residential building. We have one entrance in, and there's a reason for that. We had a traffic study. A traffic engineer came out and looked at there's actually 2 entrances on the existing site, kind of like an in and an out on Bork's building. And they took a look at the entrance that is located approximately here, the easternmost entrance, and it didn't quite meet the standards for site distance requirements there. The other entrance is located approximately where we have this, and that was more than adequate for site distance. You'll notice that there is a drainage easement. This dashed line here, the double dashed line, is an existing drainage easement, and it drains quite a bit. Drains actually Main Street and some areas to the west here along Main Street, and it just continues down here, and it goes right through town, and it's subject. I've spoken to the town planner about the drainage issues that he told me about throughout town, and this area eventually gets into those those trouble areas. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next sheet, which would be that one. Perfect. This is the grading and drainage plan, and as Mike mentioned, we have the site under existing conditions drops off as you move from the front Main Street side towards the back. So we're mimicking those grades, and we're dropping as we go around. So the parking area you won't be able to see it from Main Street, and it will also be it's probably like 7 or 8 feet lower than the Main Street entrance here, and that allows us to get into the bottom floor of the building, and you can see the parking situated on the bottom floor of this building. As far as drainage goes, the site currently drains in this direction. It all flows down here, and it kind of mimics the drainage easement. There's piping in this easement, and it mimics that, and all drains down in this direction. And there's an existing manhole. It's labeled on the plan if you have them in front of you. It's right here, and it's on this property, but it's very close to the commuter rail area, and that accepts virtually all of the runoff from this site under current conditions. And what we've done is, so that's our design point where we wanted to take a look at all of our drainage getting to this point. So what we've done is we've tried to infiltrate as much of the runoff as possible on the site. And we were able to accomplish that, and up to 5 inches of rainfall, which is it's a little bit bigger than the 10-year design storm. Everything infiltrated. That includes all of the runoff from all of the paved areas, what will be lawn areas in the future, and the roof structure. So everything's going to get infiltrated into the ground. There'll be no runoff to this. So that will improve the conditions under all of those design storms up to the 10-year design storm. So that will help the problem that the existing problem that the town is experiencing with the drainage facilities. In the 100-year storm event, DEP requires that you take a look at it, and we've also accomplished in a very large storm, like a 100-year storm, which is essentially a hurricane, there will be a little bit of water that will flow out into this. Now, again, the volume and the rate is significantly less getting to this drain manhole, even under the 100-year storm events. So it won't be zero coming off our site, but it'll be significantly less than what's going there now. And what we have for utilities, we're proposing municipal water connections. The building will be sprinklered, and it's going to have an on-site, there's an existing on-site septic system, subsurface sewage disposal system here, and essentially the entire back of this site is going to be our reserve area and our primary area for our subsurface sewage disposal system. So that will all be taken care of on-site as well. If you wouldn't mind going to the landscaping plan, I can quickly go over that. That's it. That's perfect. The good-looking one. What we're proposing on doing for landscaping now, the front of the buildings will have nice landscaping in the front of the building to dress it up. There'll be these along the back edge, and along this side, on the commuter rail side, will be Leland cypress, which will create a barrier, visual barrier, excuse me. And then there's some shade trees throughout the site for use and shade. And there's a proposed 6-foot-high fence on this side as well. Again, the dog play area that Mike mentioned, the pickleball court, I can't get into that because I honestly don't know what pickleball is, and the bocce court. And that's pretty much it. Greg, I believe Greg's going to be next with the architectural.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Greg Sarunian, Rescom Architectural. I'm a licensed architect. If you go to the architectural plans. Probably the one that you, yeah. No, maybe go with the rendering that you had. It may be part of that set, original. Well, I can start with this. Why don't you can leave this. We can. The building, as has been mentioned, is 3 stories from the street level. And if you count the window stack, you'll see those are the 3 stories. The parking level is down, as you know, the site slopes down. We looked at a lot of different shapes with this building early on. And as Bob had pointed out, you know, this final design sort of follows the easement line. And it sort of created a unique opportunity for us to segment the building and create, you know, smaller components to make up the whole mass. We did flank the middle section with these towers that we're proposing, like a brick structure with some clock towers or some other emblems on it. And another unique feature that we looked at many options and came back to this solution, which is a continuous roof line, which is a band here that allows for us to have a flat roof down below to hide all the mechanical and venting systems. You'll see in a lot of the apartment buildings being built today, they don't pay attention to that, and you got pipes and stacks going in every direction or they get bunched up. So this design sort of creates a cleaner look for that. It then gave us the opportunity to use different scale elements along the roof line, where smaller peaks and higher peaks, and some couplers to break the roof line up. Each unit also has a balcony, which you can see here with a railing, and that sort of creates some indentation, creates shadow on the building, which breaks up the scale. I think if we can go to the floor plans. Stamp set, stamp set. Yeah. So why don't you go one back one? Yeah, keep going. That's a roof plan. That's the third floor. Second floor. We'll start with the main floor. There you go. Nope. Yeah, let's start with we can go one more. There you go. The layout of the building is fairly simple on the inside. We have a main corridor that is flanked with staircases, and then those towers that I had mentioned sort of create this area to separate each wing. Creates an opportunity. On the first floor, it's entry with stairs, and on the other side, it's elevators. That breaks up the inside a little bit as well as the outside. You can see we've got the single bedroom units on one side of the building and the double rooms on the back side if you look at the scale. And that's consistent for each floor. If we can go forward to a couple more sheets. A couple more. Looking, yeah, keep going. Keep going. Those are the unit plans, a little blown up. Again, a 2-bedroom plan with a living room with the balcony and the kitchen, and the single bedroom, living, balcony. So they're very similar, just the difference is the 2 versus the 1 bedroom. One more sheet. So this is the elevation, and again, it's shown in its true form. You would never sort of be presented with this. It would have more of an angle. But you can see at the street line of, with the grading of what the scale looks like versus, this elevation is from the lower grade. So you can see from the street level, the proportion is a lot different. And then we can go one more. That's sort of a blow-up of the materials that we're suggesting, of breaking it up. We'll have brick, some flat panels, some shingles, some clapboard, and some vertical components inside the balcony areas. So we think it's very well detailed. We also think it's a subtle detail, so it's not. Sometimes you see buildings that look like it's just a little too much. They're using materials decided to break it up. I think in this case, the materials highlight the breakup that we've created. Maybe one more. Again, just more of the detail. If you go back one, at the parking garage level, we are going to have louvered openings. So that's air and sunlight in through the parking area. So it's not a concrete solid wall down there. And that sort of gives a little different feeling to the building as well. I think that summarizes the architecture. Be happy to field questions.
Okay, thank you. Very nice. All right, before we start with questioning, Al, I want to do some housekeeping. In terms of peer review, what we were thinking is we would, we want to get this process started, get it going. We'd like to use Beta to do traffic, landscape, civil engineering, get a quote from them instead of going through multiple bids. We've worked with them a lot in the past. You know them. If they come back with a bid that looks good to you, we'll run with that. If you think it's high or not good, then we'll put it out to bid. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. And we cut out the architecture piece. There's a firm that specializes in projects like yours. They do, it's Cliff Bomer. You might be familiar with them. His expertise is large buildings in town center settings. And we do the same thing with him. We'd get a bid from him to do the peer review for the architecture part of it. If you like the bid, we'll go with him. If not, we'll put it out to bid.
I think that's fine also.
Okay. And one other, while I'm spending your money, one other piece of the puzzle is our attorneys. This is I think our 7th 40B that we've done here in town, and the applicants and developers have always paid for our representation, which I think is good for us, good for you, so that Mike.
There should be a volume discount on that then. Right, 740Bs?
Well, you haven't done 7, but we have. If you'd be open to covering our legal fees. You're not required to. Full disclosure, you're not required to.
Typically, what do they run? On the other 40Bs?
Do you know, Caitlin?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, my concern would be that we get into a lengthy discussion here, and it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hearings, and then the bill just goes up and up and up. Not that it wouldn't be earned, but if we could agree to a limitation right now, and if it exceeds that, then we can revisit it later on.
Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we get some history on what, I mean, we've had some 40Bs that have gone on for 2 years. And I don't expect that in this case. My anticipation is this is going to be fairly quick. We have 180 days. I don't see a lot of issues here that would slow this down. My anticipation is that this will be a pretty smooth hearing process. But why don't we get some history, since I don't know the numbers, I don't think anyone knows the numbers. It's a huge range, I do know that. The 2-year plus legal bills are much higher than what we normally do.
Right, that's the only reason I raise it, because we don't want to, if it goes sideways, I don't think it will either, but,
Yeah.
I don't want Al to be committed to doing that for 2 years.
Yeah, nor do we. So if it's all right with you, can we work that out, Al?
Sure.
All right, we'll get some numbers to you and come up with a ceiling, and then if we exceed that ceiling, we'll come back to you and say we need some more money.
Yeah.
Something along those lines?
That'd be a good idea.
That work?
Yep.
Okay, all right, good. So the Beta, we'll reach out to Beta, ask them to give us a quote. We'll reach out to Cliff Bomer, ask him to give us a quote. We'll get some history on what legal fees have looked like for the previous 6 40Bs that we've done. And then we'll chat about a number for the legal.
That's fair.
Okay, good. All right, good. So the anticipation will be that, in the next week or so, we'll get the peer review folks squared away. And when will you be ready? Are you ready now for some peer review to be done? Have you got civil done?
Yeah, we have submitted the full site plans and our stormwater calcs, so there should be
Okay.
enough information for Beta to start at least doing some
we can-
analysis. Yeah.
So if we can work out in the next week to 10 days, Al, some agreement on who we're going to use for peer review, then we'll start that process and hopefully start peer review at our next meeting. All right, good. Traditionally, what we do is we open questions up from the board, and then we'll open up questions to abutters and interesting people here tonight. Questions from anyone?
Sure, I guess I'll start. First question is, why 55 plus rental units as opposed to open to anyone?
When we first started this project, that seemed to be one of the themes of your housing production plan. We've heard some commentary along the way that some of the members may want it to be a mix of 3 2 and 1 bedroom units, non-age restricted. We've talked about that in-house, and we're willing to look at it if that's the direction that you folks want to kind of steer this thing. I think we can still, if you wanted to take it that way, I think the peer review could still go forward, because we should be able to do everything within the footprint of the existing building. And that's kind of how the process started.
Okay. And to mirror on what Devin brought up, that's one of my questions too. We like the project. I think we'd love the project if it was not 55 and over. You've got a 55 and over to the right and to the left, so we got plenty of 55 and over housing. If you look in the surrounding areas, the projects like this near train stations that have done extremely well, Mansfield, Norwood, Westwood, they've been wildly successful. We do need apartments in Norfolk, as you well know, and you know, young people that are going to take the train into work, we think it's a winner. So if it was not age restricted, we'd go from like to love the project.
I'm not opposed to it.
Okay, okay, all right. Good, thank you. Other questions?
I know some of the questions we might ask tonight might not be as well balanced with what we might hear from the peer review. But for example, when you talk about 70-something units and only 110 parking spaces, some of these being 2-bedroom units, the question comes down to how's that enough? Again, the peer review, I think I'll have a different comment on this, and it's probably too fast to go too deep into it. But I'm thinking that even if you had 2 cars per unit, you start to get quickly into a lot of cars that we may not be able to accommodate. And that's something that caught my attention right away.
Bob Forbes again. I can address that. We've done other 40B projects in the past, and with the over 55 aspect of it, we've seen that it's approximately 1.5. We're at 1.54, I believe.
Right.
And that's,
but if we go a different
typically-
direction, that kind of changes the thought of
That's
that.
something that we'd certainly have to take a look
Right.
at that point as well.
So I've done a similar project to this in Hanson. It was a mix of the 1s, 2s, and 3s. It was right down it was walking distance to the commuter rail station down there too. And what we found through doing these types of projects, that it's typically 1.5 parking spaces, usually because it's so close to the train station. People don't have cars, they don't need it. And
Yeah, I question that only because you also live in Norfolk. Other than going to the train to go to work, then you might want to go to the shopping center, and then you start to need a car once you're home.
Sure, but
so.
for a 1-bedroom unit, it's only going to have 1 car, maybe. You know,
Oh,
maybe
right.
the 2s is where you get
Right.
into the 1.5. So, but we will definitely take a look at
Yeah,
it.
I'm just setting the tone. I know we'll be talking about parking spaces. I'd rather the peer review chime in on
Sure.
that as well. I also am concerned that I don't see any visitor spaces.
Yeah, the visitor space is all encompassed in the total number of parking
Okay.
spaces.
All right, so again, like peer review will
Sure.
talk about that. I have one more question just about the layout and the roadway. I know you have the one entrance going in and out, you know, which is the traffic. Is there enough room, at least in this current configuration, for emergency access? Is there a way to drive around the building in the other direction, God forbid?
When we originally proposed the project with the town, the fire chief did take a look at the access around the building, and the building is going to be sprinklered. He had no problem with the access that we provided. You have access to the front along Main Street, you have access to the side on the entry drive, and access to the back. So really, the only side you don't have access to is the detention basin side. He also asked that we put a hydrant on the site somewhere, and I don't believe Al has any problem with that, so that's something that will be provided. He also asked that we provide a dedicated parking space for emergency vehicles,
Yeah, I saw that.
essentially ambulance, and that is shown on the site plans. We did provide that. That's already on there.
Yeah, I just asked because I'm wondering if for some reason you can't get an emergency apparatus through the main, something's gone blocked, it's just not gonna have access. Is it still enough space that there's a way to get around the other way if you have to? That's kind of just the thought. Okay. All right.
Joe, if the decision was made to take out the age restriction, then this project would shrink from 72 units to 60 units. And I think you'd find your car count would go from 1.5 to much higher.
Okay. Yeah, again, we don't need to settle that tonight anyway.
Sure.
I just know that's going to be a tone of some of the questions I might ask our peer reviewers.
In the zoning, I think you have 1.5 for your zoning.
Granted. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Don?
Since we have no rental developments, okay, in Norfolk, I noticed under density, you're building 72 units on 2.49 acres of land, excuse me, resulting in 28.8 units per buildable acre, which is comparable to that of other rental developments in the area. Can you elaborate on what other rental, so we can kind of go and see those and get a feel? Are we talking about units in Walpole or Plainville or where?
We looked at projects in Walpole. I apologize, I don't have them listed with me tonight, but I could dig up the examples that we had looked at and get it to the board. I just don't know off the top of my head. But we looked at all the rentals around surrounding towns to try to figure out what would work and what wouldn't work.
Obviously, as I said, we don't have any large rental developments here in Norfolk. I guess in looking at this, my initial concern relates to parking and traffic, and we're going to have a peer review that's going to take a look at that. And my concern stems from the fact that, and it would be, I would think, even worse if it was not age-restricted, but it stems from the fact that if you look at the surrounding communities to Norfolk, where we are all embracing some level of apartment development, but you look at those surrounding communities, and I believe of the 8 or 10 or 12 surrounding communities of Rentham, Plainville, Franklin, Walpole, Medfield, Millis, what am I missing one? Foxborough, we're the only community that has a grade level crossing in the middle of the town. And so when we talk about the traffic study, which will take into account the Boyd's Crossing development, the new 25 Rockwood development, which we've approved, as well as the development on Cleveland Street and the development on Village Green, I am just very concerned with the numbers of car traffic, the volume of car traffic in particular, because of the grade crossing that we have on 115 and Main Street. And I look forward, Mr. Chairman, to looking at the peer review as to what that impact is going to be.
Fair enough, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions from?
Any other questions? Caitlin?
I'm all set.
Okay. All right, at this time, let's open it up to abutters, interested folks that are here tonight. If you could grab a microphone, identify your name and address.
Chris Henry, 30 Boardman. So I'll try not to carry on here. What's the building height to the peak of the roof, and does that meet with current zoning?
It does meet current zoning. If you can go back a few slides. So, yep, that go back. I'm sorry. Yeah. So this is the street level elevation. This line here is what the average grade is, and that's what they measure from. So to the highest roof peak here, which would be one of the towers, we have 44 feet 6, I'm sorry, 56 feet 9 inches. Did that answer your question?
Does, I thought it was lower, what the present zoning allowed. I thought it was only 3-story?
Chairman, you'll note that we have asked for a waiver from the height regulation.
Okay.
It's typically governed by the planning department, and under 40 feet, you guys are the planning board, so you'll be making that
Yeah.
decision.
Well, Chris, what we'll do is, when we get to the peer review level, they'll weigh in on that for us. They'll give us their professional advice.
I was just asking the question
Yeah.
whether it met it or it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was,
It doesn't.
They're
So it
asking
needs
for.
a waiver.
They're
It
asking
needs
for
a waiver.
okay. Overall, I think he did a really nice job. I think it fits the site. It's what we've all said we wanted, which was density in the downtown. I think it's brings something that Norfolk desperately needs in the form of apartments, and more importantly, some affordable ones. I think a great many people are priced out. I know you cited examples of the, Boyd's Crossing and the other one, but those are $600,000-$700,000 units. These are rentals. I think a lot of families here in Franklin that are here in Norfolk that are trying to stay. This offers a lot of opportunity for that demographic. So I think that's great. I'm strongly in favor of keeping it at the 55 age limit. I think that helps you with your parking density significantly. I also think it helps with school-age children. So I think those are all important factors for the ZBA to consider. So I would encourage you to stick with this 55. I think that's an important restriction.
I thought one note about the parking was if you drop, would you not, I thought you said you would drop the number of units and you'd actually get a higher.
So if we are governed, the number of units would be governed by our septic system or the number of bedrooms that we could use. So if we do a mix, we're going to, it's going to be by bedroom. And I think we're going to drop to in the 60 range, depending on how we disperse it. But that's going to be the reduction. What Al was saying is, if we're reducing the number of units, the amount of parking per unit goes up slightly.
Yep.
More.
Speak to that. The septic system for over 55 counts for 150 gallons a day per 2-bedroom apartment. And if it's under 55, it's 110 gallons a day per bedroom. So a similar apartment would be 220 gallons a day towards the septic in lieu of the 150 for the over 55. And then the non-age restricted apartments would have to have 10% 3 bedrooms. So if there was, say, 60, 6 of those would be 3 bedrooms. And they would carry 330 gallons a day. So when you start to divide the gallons per day into the 10,000 gallons per day limit that the state puts for a threshold of your septic, you actually get a reduction of units because the septic usage is more for people that are under 55.
Yep.
So that being said, I think, the mix would be 1, 2s, and 3s. It'd probably be like 60 units, and the parking wouldn't really change, and you'd probably have more of a 1.7 range of parking spaces per units.
Up from the 1.5. Yep.
Right.
Less units, more parking.
Cars. Are you also going to be asking for a waiver from the 50-foot setback to residents?
If it was required, we asked for it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Don?
I don't know if anybody else, as a proponent of 55 and older age-restricted housing, is there any possibility of taking like a building, in other words, mixing it? Just throwing it out there, it looks like, almost looks like there's 3 separate wings to this.
and to say, okay, this wing would be 55 and older, and the rest would be, interspersed 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms.
We'd have to look into that a little bit. I mean, we'll have some time between now and the next hearing to dig into that question.
Questions from other folks? Yes.
Martha Henry, 30 Boardman Street. My question is really to you, Chairman, in lieu of. Why is it that you're now asking for not 55? Because I did listen to the whole Village Green presentation. It's a need in town. There are people who are downsizing who would like to stay in town. And then it's a different impact on our schools. You just mentioned we have 6, 7 40Bs that, I don't know, did they age restrict Village Green? And then you mentioned multiple 55? I'm just confused.
The main reason is because of the train station. What the apartments do, it attracts younger people who are working in Boston. They don't have kids in the schools quite yet. And for the most part, if you look at surrounding communities, that's what they're getting. Younger people who want to live out here, they don't want to pay the outrageous rents in the city, yet they work in the city. And so it ties in nicely with having a train in town. So that's one of the components of it. We've got 2 other 55 and over communities, a mile on one side, a mile on the other.
Where are those? I'm just.
River's Edge. And
okay,
then,
but that's expensive housing, right? Those aren't apartments.
Right, it's 50, but yes, but it's 55 and over, and then the, what we call the Boy Scout property, that's going to be, the Enclave is going to be 55 and over.
Okay.
So.
That's also purchased, they're not rental units.
Yeah, they're not rentals. They're not
Those
rentals.
are purchased, right? Okay. As a person who owns a property in another town right next to the train station, I've never had one tenant who took the train. So just anecdotally, and I've owned that house for 15, 16 years, so I think the switch all of a sudden to not 55 and over is something I think we should be discussing as a town. Is that coming out of some of the new stuff with the town planner or any of those committees?
In conversations with the town planner, he prefers that direction, under 55. That's, direction we've gotten from the land use department and the town
So
planner.
is that a decision that will happen early on in this process? Because Al has already put in this proposal?
No, we're just, this is our first hearing. We're talking about it and discussing it.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Peter Chipman, 201 Main Street. First of all, I want to say I'm in support of the project. Mike, if you remember, I think we were on the Downtown Development Committee 10 years ago, and this is exactly what we were hoping for back then. I think Devin's on the B1 development part of it. I was sitting in a meeting today with the Property Owners Committee of the B1 development, and to clarify a couple things about the parking. One, as Al mentioned, the actual zoning for the B1 district is 1.5, but the MAPC consultant, of which you've hired, is actually going to be recommending 1 unit per going forward. The second part I want to make is we were kicking around with the idea of potentially, instead of limiting it to the 3 stories, 3.5 stories to better make room for that 3rd level to offset the cost of the commercial development on the first ground. However, on this particular proposal, I think it looks great, and it bumped it up a little higher because they did the pedestal parking underneath to bury as many cars that would be just ugly asphalt. So I think I consider the trade-off of a suppressed height from Main Street, having the pedestal parking underneath, well worth it, exceeding the arbitrary height limit of 46 feet, or as it currently is, 40 plus 6. So this is what we've been working for. Mike, we've spent endless hours together with many others.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that you can find a way to make some form of this project go through.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Sorry, I just had one more question. Chris Henry, 30 Boardman. So as a 40B, as apartments, these would all count towards our affordable housing goal, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and it gets us back into safe harbor, which is a.
That's, well,
the big thing.
target, but that's an important goal.
Yes,
Yeah, that's-
all- on an apartment, all units count.
Right.
Yep.
Tim? Okay, you sure?
I support it.
Okay, all right. Phew. All right. Seeing no other hands or questions at this time, let's look at our calendars and schedule the next public hearing. Amy, what do we have available for dates?
I think you want 18 September, probably pretty sure.
18 September, Chris?
Probably the next available.
What else?
Nothing scheduled there yet.
No. Okay, so this is,
Alright, so that's August 21, we have three,
so nothing, okay, so that's wide open, all right. So, yeah, we can get you in first thing.
How about that?
Yeah, so we can all get home 18th at 7:15.
Sure.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for
194.
194
Street.
Main Street for 7:15 on September 18th.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the goal will be, as we talked earlier, we'll get the peer reviews going. We'll talk about price, the cost and all that kind of stuff, and get some legal numbers so we can get that squared away and get the process started.
I'm on board.
Okay, good. All right, thank you very much. All right, so, Chris, do you want to come back up?
Thank you very much.
All right, good to meet you. Take care.
I'll start with me.
Thanks, Caitlin.
That's my whole spiel for nothing.
All right, you'll have more chances.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Did a fine job.
Oh, jeez, I'm rusty. I don't miss it, I can tell you that. I don't miss
Fine
it.
job. We're back at it here at 9 o'clock. Amy, we did not receive anything for the wetland peer review, correct, for 144? So we won't be doing that. We have to, we don't really have to vote. I think we just have to sign the Mylars, correct? We don't have to vote to approve them, or do we have to vote to approve them?
I wasn't sure, so I thought better safe than sorry.
Okay. So could I don't think we can, we probably can't vote till after we look at them.
Well, they've been peer reviewed.
They've been peer reviewed, I think, by, yeah, so I think
Yeah.
so I asked, let's have a motion to approve the final plans for the enclave at Village Green as prepared.
So moved.
For Seacon Street?
Excuse me?
Is this for Seacon?
No, you're at the wrong hearing, you're early.
Okay, I'll come back in about a minute.
No, this is the enclave, this is a project off Village Green. Yeah, not Seacon Street. You're early for that meeting.
Yeah, she's,
This evening, right?
No,
No.
Seacon
Set
Street,
it on the agenda. It said, to review and vote on a peer review proposal? Right.
Yeah.
But we did not.
that's a peer review for the, that's just a peer review, that's not a continuation of the hearing.
Don't talk about anything.
No.
oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I told you to call Amy and get the schedule.
Well, I
Amy,
didn't bother you, so I guess I'll leave now that I've bothered him.
no, it's good that you came, though. We like you to come.
All right.
Hey, it was more exciting than the Red
We're-
Sox
we're-
game.
We're saving an associate,
It is more exciting.
we're saving an associate position on the board for you,
Told me that. I was wondering where my name tag was.
Were you,
okay?
were you here from 7 o'clock?
Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the Mylars as proposed for the enclave at Village Green?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, before the meeting's over, we will sign those.
He noted I abstained because.
Yes, I understand.
Thank you.
Do we, yes, noted that Don is
Just
staying for
noted I
that vote.
abstained.
Do we want to,
I don't think we can deliberate.
we can't deliberate, Old 10 Old Populatic, Bridie Lane is gonna continue.
And we wanna-
35 Leland, we could do 35 Leland if the board so chooses. Do you want to, try to?
Is that the one, wait, is that the one with the,
That's the
is that the one with the water that we wanted to see? if
That's
they-
the one we're gonna let it go to the
Right,
COMCOM
right, yeah,
first, so we'll
right.
hold off on that.
All right.
So.
So we
okay.
said August 21st, we deliberate on that.
Right, we will.
Okay.
Correct. So at this point, I guess the only thing left is for us to sign the Mylars, and we certainly don't have to be in public session to do that. So at this time, I'd ask at 9:05 for a motion to close the zoning board of appeals meeting for August 7th.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Chris. Have a good evening.